Okay, so good evening, everyone. So tonight actually, dito naman tayo for another tutorial, which is yung t-test tutorial, since there has been some request na gawin ko din for the descriptive researches involving the significant difference, which is yung t-test. And yeah, since gabi na, let's try to get into it as quickly as possible as we can. So just before we start the tutorial, I would like to give some thanks to my mom and to Mom Jen for helping us with our 3 eyes research, even though nag-handle siya ng around 40 groups sa school. Nakapaglaan pa rin siya ng time sa atin to give guidance for our research. And to my mom, of course, for everything. I'd like to thank them for that. And I would like to give a shout out to my STEM 12J classmates. Salamat sa suporta always. And yeah, happy Mother's Day, since technically Mother's Day pa ngayon. And yeah, so without further ado, I think we should begin our tutorial for tonight. So starting with this. So if our SOP measures a difference between two variables, then first you would actually need to formulate a hypothesis. So let's try to put the hypothesis here. So we're working with the null hypothesis, so it's HI or HO. In this case, let's do HI. So there is no significant difference between, just say, A and B. So the first thing you actually need to do is to formulate yung hypothesis mo, so that you can make sure of what treatment you will use. And since ito nga yung hypothesis natin, we will use the t-test. And for correlation, like I mentioned in the previous video, relationship, it measures the relationship. This in case measures the difference. So yeah, so let's go here for a little bit. This, okay, as we can see here, just like previously shown in the last video, in using these tests to measure a significant difference, there are prerequisites. So starting with, if we know the population standard deviation, or the RAW. So in this case, we do not know, since wala naman tayo kinompute na standard deviation, and we could actually compute for it, but it's too much of a hassle, even though our sample size is above 30 siya. So we could use the z-test, but we do not know the standard deviation, so we will still use the t-test unless you wanted to compute for the population standard deviation. I think may formula naman dun. But since we're using Excel, I don't think we need to. So we do not know the population standard deviation, so we will use the t-test. Okay, so going back, I'll show you the formula for the t-test. So ito yan. So as you can see, itong t-value, this is your t-stat, this is the t-stat value, and then ito yung, this is the population mean, the population mean, and this is the I think this is the sample mean actually, and then this is the sample mean, the population mean. This is the sample mean, this is the population mean. Itong S is your sample standard deviation. Since kung population standard deviation yan, that would be raw. Yan, that would be raw. In this case, S, that's the sample standard deviation. And itong N, square root of N, is the number of respondents. So, yun nga, there are ways to compute for those values, but since i-excel nga natin siya, we don't need this formula at all actually. Mas patadali natin yung pagka-compute natin ng ating significant difference. So, even though we're computing for the significant difference, isama ko na rin yung updated way on how I would compute for the weighted mean, the average weighted mean, and the composite mean in this video. So, first, i-compute muna natin itong the t-test. So, ito. First, actually, is you need data. As you can see here. This is what I use for the correlation test. But, for now, is, let's say, ito yung difference. So, yun nga, you need to tally your data again. And then, what you actually need to do is, you need to get a summation of those. So, itong lahat ng to, in this row, ito yung sum. And to get the sum of that, you need to put the formula in there. So, gawin muna natin siya. Here. So, I have the exact same table from earlier. This is the independent variable, and this is the dependent variable. So, you need to set your variables in place. So, gawin muna natin yung sum. So, to put the formula in Excel, it equals some parentheses, and just drag yung mga values. Okay, and then press enter. Okay, naman ako ng sum for this first row, and what you can do to make it faster is the power of spreadsheets. Just itong little green box na to, just drag it down until yung last row. Sorry, till here. Okay, so that are the values, and we can do the same with this, but I pretty much demonstrated on how to do it. So let's proceed here. So what you need to do to get the significant difference is you'll use a t-test like I mentioned. Now, so resolve this, and muna natin to. So, to compute for the t-test automatically in Excel, you need to have data analysis. So, how do we get data analysis again? Since kung wala ito sa Excel mo, you have to get it manually. So, go to into file, go into more options, and then add-ins. And then sa add-ins, if you see your analysis toolpack on inactive application add-ins, click that, then click go. So, kailangan mong i-check to. So yeah, then click OK. So after that, you will have your data analysis in Excel. So now is we're going to do the t-test, and there's 3 kinds of t-test here. Merong pair 2 sample for means, assuming equal variances and unequal variances. But what we're going to use is ito, since parehas tayo ng uh, ng respondents para sila ng inanalyze na value. So for means ang ating gagamitan. Okay. So for the variable range is ito. I was actually testing this earlier to see if it would work. Medyo naka-preset na siya. So let's just repeat it just for you to know. So for variable 1, that would be your independent variable. Yeah, then you need to drag these hanggang dito up to where you desire it. Since I know most of you will be having more than 121 respondents. And for this since I use purposive sampling for my research, I only have 121 respondents. Kaya if you use a probability sampling technique, then you would end up with a much higher value. So going to the output range, lagay na lang natin siya dito. Okay, there's this. Oops. Yeah, okay. Okay, so ito na yung ating computation. Excel did it for us. So look at this. First, as we can observe, we get the mean, we have the variance, and the observations. Even the Pearson correlation is here. But what we're looking for is the significant difference. And yung significant difference is what we can see in the t-stat and the test that we would do. So our t-stat is this, and 0.87 and yung ating degrees of freedom, since 121 ating respondents, the degrees of freedom is just n-1, the formula for the degrees of freedom. So we can see that it is right as well. So since ang ating hypothesis is null, meaning that it is a denial of existence of something. Since there is no significant difference, we're denying the existence of a significant difference. We are not sure if meron ba or wala, if it would be positive or negative. So what we will apply is yung ating two-tailed test. Why? Since kung yan ay an alternative hypothesis, or ano ba? Kung yan ay alternative hypothesis, then we're going to do the one-tailed test. Okay, so yung I think I need to explain this in a much deeper depth. So let's say I have a curve here. Let's say, oops. Okay. Let's say I have a curve here, and I have another curve here. Okay. So the time that we use a one-tailed test is if we're sure that there's something, if we are confirming something, so we are sure that it is positive. But if we're going to use a two-tailed test, like we're going to, since we're denying the existence of something, since we are denying the existence of something, we are not sure if that existence would be positive or negative. So that is what I'm trying to explain. So, kaya gagamit tayo ng two-tailed test. Okay? Tama? Tama. So, let's make our normal curve here. Okay, let me redo that. Let's just make it a little one. Sorry, perfectionist talaga ako. I guess that's fine. So this would be the center here. This is 0. Just approximating. And ang ating critical value of the two-tailed test is, let's mark it in a different color para hindi siya nakalito. Yes. Positive 1.97, or let's just approximate that. 1.98 and approximately negative 1.98. So that is the critical value in which dyan na yung the rejection region and all that stuff. I'll explain that later. So now we look at our t-stat. So ang ating t-stat is 0.87. 0.87 positive. It would be located, I think, here. This is close to 0. 0.87. So, and so on. So, what does these numbers imply? Ano ang meaning ng mga numbers na to? So, let me explain. Itong region na to, this region is what we call the acceptance region. That is what we call the acceptance region. And what do we call these two? These two right here. That is what we would call the rejection region. So, if your t-stat was higher than your critical value, in this case, then what will you do? You will what? You will reject your null hypothesis. That is if your t-stat happens to be bigger than your critical value. And if your t-stat is lower than your critical value, and then of course you will accept the null hypothesis. Since kita nyo naman, pumasok yung ating t-stat within the acceptance region, therefore we have to accept the null hypothesis. So, as you can see here, since ang ating decision is to accept, so we will accept this. Accept the null hypothesis. So meaning there's no significant difference between those variables, meaning that they're the same. So going back, this is the computation of the t values and the t stat itself. So to give a little bit more to clarify a bit more on this, is kaya siya na reject is probably because kung maobserbahan mo naman yung values, they're very close to each other, diba? And then as you would analyze if yung either the independent or dependent variable is medyo magkakaiba yung values nila, then maybe the t-stat would be within the rejection region. So now I hope you have learned how to compute for the significant difference using Excel, using the t-test data analysis in Excel. So yun nga, just a clarification again, ang ating ginamit na confidence level is 95%, meaning that there is a 5% margin of error. Since we're conducting mostly a social science study and hindi pa siya about sa medical aspect kung na kailangan ay you have to use a 99% confidence level, meaning that there is a 1% margin of error. In the field of modern researches, itong yung mga yan ang mostly nagagamit confidence levels to widen the spectrum of our knowledge regarding medical and the social science in that regard. So now na tapos na tayo sa significant difference, we will move on to the weighted mean, which is mas madali, the means. So okay, so like I said, to compute for the weighted mean is you need to have data. And since nga unlike the last video, medyo pinahaba ko yung process, pero this time I'll try to be more quick on the uptake. So to get the mean of something, simply need to get the average of it. So I thought for question 1, tinali natin lahat ng responses ng bawat respondent. So we will get that. Okay, then we click enter. Since we're only using up to 2 significant figures, round off na natin siya to 2 decimal places. So just click number, that arrow beside the number, and then go to number, and then choose the desired decimal place. And now gusto natin siyang i-distribute again. Okay, then since malapit na itong the means of this, we can just do that. Okay, diba? Dire-diretso na siya. just clear the contents of this. Okay, diba? Meron na tayong weighted mean of all the indicators, and now we want to get the average weighted mean. Again, equal sign average parentheses, and now getting the average weighted mean of one term is syempre yung 5 lang, and then click enter. It is your average weighted mean, and I guess I can do that. So then just a simple step-by-step process. Okay. And then dito right, that, and finally ito. Okay, so those are the average weighted mean of each term, and now we want to get the composite mean. So to get the composite mean, we're just getting the average of these three. Average it again, and now you can just drag this. Since wala namang nakalagay na contents dun sa ibang cells, it will automatically compute just these three. So ito yung ating composite mean. Okay, same with this average, and then just get all of this. Yeah, so again, this is the weighted mean, this is the average weighted mean, and this is the composite mean. And now if you're done with this, then you can proceed to your chapter 4, where you will start interpreting your data. You will start to interpret yung mga values. Bibigyan mo ng meaning yung values. So yeah, so we computed for the means and ngayon nga the significant difference. So yeah, I guess that pretty much wraps up the tutorial for tonight. 11 PM na din naman. So I hope you've learned something valuable from this tutorial. Sana maggawa nyo na yung inyong statistical treatment if ang research nyo ay descriptive and mini-measure yung significant difference. So if you have Excel, you can definitely follow this tutorial, and kung wala naman, you can do the conventional way, but it would still be useful if sa school you can borrow a computer from the computer room, and then you can do your statistical treatment in that. So yun lang. That pretty much wraps up the tutorial for the statistical treatment of data involving the t-test. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you tune in for more for future tutorials, and yeah, thank you again. Bye.